Suzanne Barron here, founder of Christ the True Light. You can visit my website at www.christthetruelight.com. Please do that. This is Revelation of Truth Part 3. So I'm not going to do an opening for this one. I just, because they're going to be clipped together. Again, if this is the first time you're seeing me, this is going to be clipped together, and when they're clipped, you don't want to hear an opening each time. So it's been a few days since I've done Part 2. And the reason is distractions, doing other things, plus the further along I get in the story, the harder it is to tell. Not for the reason that openness, being open. I'm a very transparent person, so I have no problem telling my story. It's just more complex. It gets more and more complex as the story goes. All right, so I told the story about the dream that I had on Old Bethel Road. I've talked about how I turned myself in, and now I'm at where I ended up at Camp Gulf with my pastor, where I did my 5 years learning the Word, learning the Bible at South Walton Church of Christ. I talked about how my pastor said he would help me, and I said I didn't want to burn that bridge. I just watched that video to kind of update myself to what I want to talk about. My little list of things right here. It's kind of blurry. I got a light on it. I'm going to do my best to tell this portion of the story. Now, as I said, I went to jail, basically turned myself in, got caught, did my little time, and then I moved over to Walton County Jail. I still had to come back to Okaloosa because there was another charge that was found on me, and but that was at the end of the sentence anyways. So I go to jail, and they offered me 3 years paper. And again, I said I don't want jail. I didn't want jail time. So what they did was they ended up screwing me over is basically what happened, because the original offer was three years paper, and I said no. And so because of that, they gave me 6 months plus three years paper. So I wasn't going to fight that. I just took it. Because it probably has already gotten worse. It's going to get worse again. So I just took that. I wanted to sit in jail. I wrote him a letter, my pastor. I wrote my pastor a letter, and I told him that I was ready at this point. And he came to visit me through the video. These days everything's through video, but they didn't have the kiosks like the tablets where you can do, like these days you can sit in your own home and do video visits. Back at that time, he had to go to the jail and visit me. So he did come to visit me. And he put money on my books. He asked me what did I need? And I said I needed a home. And this is one of those times where I say, like, said it gets more complex. I say I never asked him for money. There actually are a couple of times that I did, and I want to talk about those too. I have written that down. But all I asked him for was contact solution. I needed a contact case and contact solution. That's all I asked him for. And then he put $100 on my books. Well, when you're in jail, that money, you get used to that money. I hadn't had commissary the whole time I was in jail. I don't know how long I had been there at that point, a month and a half. Coming from the other jail to this new one too. So that, I've been in there for maybe 2 or 3 months. I don't know. So my timing is not, 100% accurate, but I was indigent. And so you get money on your books and you're like, whoa. So I tried to budget the money that he gave me. And whenever I'd run out, I'd ask for money. And about every other week, he was putting $100 on my books. So I was spending about $50 a week and in jail. And he did that. And a couple of times I called and I said, I remember one specific time that I called for money and I said, I really don't, hate asking for it. And he said, consider it grace. Consider it grace. I remember that he said that. Consider it grace. Unmerited favor. Just consider it grace. But I told him that I was ready. And that I needed a place to stay, so he arranged that for me. So I did my time. I got out. Now, when I was in jail that time, he would mail me studies, and I would write to him letters every like 2 or 3 letters a week. And he told me at one point later that he had kept every letter I wrote him. So I still wondered, does he still have those letters? Does he still have the flash drives? Does he still have the hard drive? Does he still have that stuff that I gave him, sent him? But I studied. I kept myself away from other inmates. I did not associate with other inmates. I mean, you do a little bit, but I learned how to do jail time the right way, actually. Just to be alone, to not interact, to just like something going on, a conversation is going on right here, two women are talking, and just to look forward, look straight, just look like you're standing in the midline and they're talking junk, and you got to stand right next to them. And just I learned how to do jail time that time, like appropriately, like just ignore and stay to yourself. You never see nothing, don't hear nothing, you don't interact, don't get involved, just stay to yourself. um People don't mess with you as much, they leave you alone. But I studied. I had a table. People, after some time, people realized that that's her table. I picked the table way away from everything, way in the back, and I would just have it covered with paper, like the whole table, like had the circle round tables, 4-person chairs, and I would just fill it with paper and books, and basically stating, there's no room at this table for anybody. And I would just take over that table and I would just study, 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 study. That's all I did. Um, so I get out of jail. So now I'm at Camp Golf. I'm staying in the apartment. The building had changed. It's kind of hard to show you. There's like a parking lot. And then where the X is where the church used to be when I was a teenager. It had an apartment over the top. Where the O is where the building, I would say is now, but they built a brand new building, but it was there. This is where the building was when I got out of jail. But it used to be in this building. And at the top above upstairs, there's an apartment upstairs. And that's where he put me. He put me in that apartment when I got out. All right. I had only been out a month before I went back to jail. I got my daughter back during that month. And the guy that I mentioned, the Stockholm Syndrome, really know exactly everything that happened. From what I understand, is he was the victim in my case. For probation. He's the victim for my case for grand theft auto for stealing the scooter. I'm not going to talk about how the scooter really was mine, but it wasn't in my name, and I just didn't come back with it and all that crap. That's just how men will kind of control you. Oh, I'll buy you this item. It's all bad anyways. I'll buy you this item, but it's in his name, so that whenever you do something that he doesn't like, well, I'm going to call the cops. Well, ultimately, that's what he did. He reported it stolen. And in my drug addict scheme mind, I thought, well, I'm already going to go to jail for it being stolen. Since it was a different county, I had to go to a different county. I was arrested in Okaloosa for the crimes of Walmart. I had to go to a different county to handle this. So I said, there's things that happen that you don't really know what's going on. Eventually, they'll catch you. So the whole thing was processing. That's how I ended up in Walton County. All right. Um, my drug addict mind and mad and stuff. I'm not going to go back and go to jail. At the time before I did the Walmart thing, I don't know how to explain this. I thought to myself, well, I'm already going to get charged for being stolen. It's been reported stolen, so I sold it for crack. That's just the truth. So now I have grand theft auto on my record for stealing a scooter. But that man, I guess he was on probation at the time too, and this does kind of fall into the TI informant thing, but it's an evil system. I'm not going to even touch on that here because it just makes it more complex than it really needs to be for my story. Um, Confidential informants, that kind of stuff. But anyways, I know. See, I said it's going to get hard. I remember. So we were both on probation. And I guess he went and reported in, and the probation officer, that was my probation officer too when I got out, saw the name. When he got my case, he saw the name of the victim and said, oh, well, that's one of my clients. And so he spoke to the dude when he reported in. See, I had only been out a month. So it was like a month later, the guy goes to report in. And he says, let me know if she's made contact with you, da 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 da. And he lied and said I had already had contact with him. And I violated my probation for having contact with the guy when I had not had contact with him. There are things that people say they didn't do this, they didn't do that, didn't do this. I'm usually pretty honest. I'll tell you if I did the crime. I didn't do this one. I was clocked in at the time that the guy said that I had made contact. My pastor, who was my boss at the time, he had my report, my record, my clock in chart. People said that, so you carry a walkie-talkie around. I mean, and he is directly across the street from the campground, so it could have been easy, right? But for the time that he said that I had made contact, I was on the clock, and I had my walkie-talkie. You call, they call you. You need to be present. I did not have contact with him. To further give evidence to the fact that I knew not to have contact with him, John Barron, who is my husband, I'm still married to him, was not married to him at the time. Him and his wife, who had passed away, she's passed away, Carol took me to Walmart within that month. Within that month that I had been out. And I did see him walk inside of Walmart. I saw him walk inside of Walmart, and I ducked down in the truck. I was like, I can't get out of the truck right now. I'm not allowed to have contact with that dude. So that also was a little bit of evidence to say that she didn't have contact. She knew not to. Her behavior shows that. So he hired a private investigator on me and a lawyer, I think. Not the private investigator. I think the private investigator wouldn't take the case to help try to get me out of jail. Ultimately, I know better. See, he was, like I said this about this man, there's never been anyone to stand with me. Nobody's ever stood with me. I'm used to standing alone. He's the only man. He's the only man, only person, man, female, didn't matter. The only person I've ever known that has stood for me. So he fought for me while I was in jail, waiting to go to court, to get out, this, that, and the other. But as an inmate, you don't fight it. If you plead not guilty, you're going to sit in jail for a year. You know this. So what do? You take it. You admit to doing it. Whether you did it or not, you admit to it. Plead no contest to the crime, which is I'm not saying I did it. I'm not saying I didn't do it. You're not saying guilty, but actually you plead guilty when you violate. So I guess I did plead guilty. I did it. Let me out. I didn't do it though. Okay, so at this point now I'm on community control, which is basic house arrest. I had a good probation officer, and because I lived inside the campground, I pretty much had reins of the campground. I did not have to stay at my campsite. I lived and worked. See, I'm messing up already. So it says harder. Where I had lived there during that month's time in jail, the congregation purchased a fifth wheel for me. So when I got out of jail this time, I wasn't no longer upstairs in that apartment. I was inside the campground in a fifth wheel. This was I think the second one they got. The first one he got scammed and lost $40,000. So this was the second one. They've gotten me 3. All right, so this is the second one. And good probation officer. I got reins of the park. All right, so maybe not the best portion of the story, but it is pretty good. I learned the Bible during this time. That's what's important. That's what's important about this story about Camp Gulf, is that I learned Scripture. I learned enough of the Bible to sustain my life, my physical life, through the next portion that you're going to see. You're going to see a story about psychosis, schizophrenia, another relapse. You're going to see all of that. But what I learned in those 5 years is what sustained me through my psychotic break, my spiritual attack, psychosis, where the voices tried to kill me, the real demons. What I learned in those 5 years is what sustained me. That's what's important. Right? That's why I was meant to be there. There is some confusion that I still deal with. I admit to this, about being in the campground and then leaving the campground, because I had the dream that said I would find before I went to the campground, I had a dream that said I would find God after the campground on Olean's Lane when I went looking for women and children. That's when I would find God. And that was after the campground. So that means I was meant to leave the campground. Complicated, spiritual, but I see God through all of it. I see a movement, a purpose through every bit of it. Does it make it easy to tell the story? All right, so now I am activities director, my daughter, part housekeeping, my husband, John Barron, his wife, Carol Barron, they were like housekeepers, supervisor. He was a supervisor, became the supervisor, and he passed away. All right, and that's how I ended up marrying him. She passed away. He started coming to church with me, and he's a good guy. Okay, currently he's still addicted to crack cocaine. He lives in New York. He still uses crack cocaine, but he's still a decent dude. We conversate, we talk. He helps me out with funds here and there. He really is a good guy. I wouldn't have married him if he wasn't. Struggling with mental stuff, seeking psychologists. I don't understand why he's not understanding my ministry. He needs. That's what it is. You know, I'm not trying to preach on him right now. The voices, though. All right, so probably not the best ordered one. I said it's going to be this difficult. Okay, it's difficult to say. At the campground, I heard voices. I did hear voices at Camp Golf. And it was inside. I'll talk about the technology and how I can hear voices and chattering. People have fears of technology because they're making strange noises, how my computer's made noises, this, that, and the other. If you're a follower and you're watching this, it's probably making sense. If you're not a follower and it's the first time you've seen me, you're thinking, what is she talking about? I plead with you to check out my other videos because this is without the other videos, this is not going to make that much sense to you. The washing machine would chatter. And I was not the only person that heard it. In fact, all of the housekeepers heard it. It sounded like whispers were coming out of it when it was running. And because I wasn't the only person that heard it, the other people heard it too. We all just thought it was just kind of weird how it's doing that. And then we accepted it. It became like we accepted it and it didn't cause any havoc on me or anybody else because everybody heard it. It's coming through the washing machine. And it was just strange thing that nobody really thought much about because obviously we all hear it. I can just feel that it's not going to be that great, but it'll help that it's clipped together because when you reach this portion of it, you're thinking, okay, the rest of it's not so bad. It's just difficult to explain, and I don't know how to order it either. I said how I had called Tammy to say, you know, I can't feed my daughter. Can't do that. And how I said, you know how hard it is for an addict to do that. There was this girl that had met in jail during that month that I was in there waiting to get out after the dude had lied on me. During that month, I met a female in there. Her name was Megan. It's not my best friend Megan that died of heroin overdose. Not that girl, which is probably something I should mention. So Megan Daniels is my best friend. Okay, I grew up with her. She's been my friend for a long time. When I was sober, she was always a pothead. I've always known Megan to be a pothead. Megan was always going to smoke pot. She was going to die smoking pot. She loved weed. I'm not a weed smoker. I'm not a pot smoker. Whenever I would get clean, we still hung out. But she would not smoke her pot around me. She respected me enough that she wouldn't smoke pot around me. Our friendship was so important to her that when she was around me, she did not smoke weed. When I went to that campground, now I'm back in the town. I lived in Crestview. She lived in Miramar Beach, Sandestin area. So we didn't hang out too much, but sometimes we did. She would drive or we'd meet halfway at Fort Walton Beach, maintained a friendship. When I moved to that campground, she was excited. She knew I was coming, that I was close by, and I told her that I could not be her friend because of her weed. And it broke her heart. I saw her a few times. Like I said, there were times I would go with Heather Campbell, a member of the congregation. She would like devote every Monday to take me all the way up to Jufini. I have to report in because I'm on a community control. She'd take me to Walmart. And she knows that, like, there'd be moments that, like, I would see somebody. If it's like we're walking down an aisle and Suzanne disappeared, it's because I saw somebody and I'm trying to run away from them. I don't want to be around them. I would duck when I saw that dude. And the guy, his name was Doug. Stop calling him dude. He's dead now. Whenever I would see Doug go into, like, Walmart, when I saw him going to Walmart that one time, I saw him at the Dollar General one time too, and with my daughter. And I grabbed her hand and ran into the manager's office. He walked in the door. But I would stay away from people. Ultimately, she died of heroin overdose. I didn't know that she was on heroin. I did not know that she was even taking heroin. Megan is a pothead to me. But our friendship rekindled because I was at the health department one day. I knew she had had a baby. And after that much friendship, I would see her at Walmart and I would stop for her. I would not run from her. We would make eye contact and I would just stand there still and just watch her walk by. I never ran from her. I acknowledged her every time I saw her. I loved her. I just needed to stay away from her because she was a drug addict. She was on pot. But I would respect her enough to not run from her. I would acknowledge her presence. But there was one time she was pregnant. That's how I knew she was fixing to have a baby. I seen her pregnant, walking into Walmart, and she walked into the health department across the way. There's like the WIC section, for you get your formula and stuff, government assistance, and she was holding the car seat. And because of that baby, if she hadn't had the baby, I wouldn't have got up out my chair. Because of that baby, I went over there and I didn't even say hi to her. I knew she wouldn't have cared. I just started unstrapping the baby out of the car seat. I wanted to hold that baby. And she stood there in tears. So our friendship rekindled at that moment. Now, I'm glad it did because this was after I had gotten married. I was already married. No, it's not true. See, it's hard. It was very close to the marriage. It was within a couple of weeks, and I invited to the marriage. I'll show you pictures. Try to put pictures of Megan. It's dying. It's okay. Pictures of Megan. She tied the my back of the dress. I don't know what you call it. 2 months later, she passed away. Yeah, that's right. Because I was married in September. She died in November. She passed away 2 months later. So I got to spend that time with her. But the girl Megan that I met in the jail, the only reason why I even took on this friendship was because she too in jail was pregnant. And she had told me a story about how she had never even held a baby before. And I saw Suzanne Barron in her. I had never held a baby before my child. I've only had one. I had never held a baby. I thought it was skipping. Yeah, it's okay. I had never held a baby before. And when Stevie was born, she was in the NICU. She was in the NICU for 2 months. Her heart stopped beating in there. And when they gave her to me, I didn't have my mom or anybody around. I mean, I'd never changed diapers. I was just alone. And her dad was off at the strip clubs, this, that, and the other, leaving me at home till 3 o'clock in the morning. I was left in a home with a baby that had no idea what I was doing with it. I had no support, nobody to show me how to do anything, how to birth the child, how to condole her, coddle her, how to change her diaper. I had no idea of what I was doing. I was overfeeding her. She was puking all over the place. I mean, she had colic. She was crying. I shook her. I shook my baby. And the noise that she made when I shook her told me to put her down. The noise that she made when I shook her told me to put her down. And so I put her down. in the car seat. I strapped her in, and I told my mom to come get her, that I couldn't take care of her. And I didn't touch her for about 2 months. My mom kept her. So I saw myself in this girl, and I didn't want her to shake her baby. I didn't want her to do that. So, I mean, it wasn't my fault. I forgive myself. My daughter knows that I did this. I'm a very transparent person. I have told her this years ago. That's what I did. That's why whenever Megan did have her baby, I was like, you better change this baby's diaper. And I try to put babies in my kid's hand, like, take care of this baby so this stuff doesn't happen to you. Um, I never held a child. I never held a single baby before my daughter was born. One single baby. Knew nothing about what I was doing. So in jail, she expressed fears like that. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't have a mom. She doesn't have friends. She's a heroin user, Dilaudid, those kind of things, opioids. She's actually who I caught hepatitis C from. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Okay, so I tell her I'll be her friend. She knows I'm a Christian. I'm doing the same. I'm still studying, still studying this, that, and the other. And I took on her as a friend. I told her I'd be a friend. But, you say things in jail, you never really expect people to, like, go through with them. I got out first, and she said that whenever she got out, she would come see me with I had never had a Panera Bread avocado smoothie. It was her favorite drink. She said, I'll bring you one. And when she got out of jail, that's exactly what she did. She was still pregnant at the time. She brought me an avocado smoothie. And we were talking and hanging out. Now, she was on methadone. She's doing, like, the oxins. I can't remember which one she was on at the time. So I'm thinking this friendship's going to be okay. She's trying to stay clean. She's clean, right? Not really. You're not really clean. But there's ups and downs with the Suboxone thing, and the methadone. I won't get into my opinions on that. I see positive and negative, and I'm not going to get into that. But ultimately, at the time, I'm thinking she's clean. She's not really clean, but she's clean. She's not using. She is using. This friendship will be okay. So she has the baby, and we're still being friends. She's still clean. And she came to a Thanksgiving dinner at the campground, too. And, I even took the baby to church with me. His name was Santino. Now, I want to tell you, this girl right now, she's living a great life. She actually is clean now. And she's doing really, really, really well for herself. She really is. But ultimately, she relapsed. She started using again. And because we're hanging out, that triggered a relapse for me. So I did relapse in that campground. Not for very long. Not for very long. I said this. Maybe a week. 2 weeks. Not for very long. I saw the danger instantly. I knew where I was at was a great place. I knew what the church was doing for me. I knew that this was, again, not what I wanted to do. And I had told her I can't hang out. She'd call. She had problems with some guy. She'd come over, and I tried to end the relationship, like my friend. I mean, it's hard. It's hard these days to, like, cut off people. We're told to be nice and good to people, and it's a trap. So you start feeling guilty when you have to be rude to these people. It becomes a trap. It's like a trap. I think Satan will like do something to them so that you feel guilty to try to help them. But they'll bring you down if you're not strong enough. It's a trap. So I needed accountability. I knew this. I knew that I needed accountability. And I've said this. I don't think my pastor ever realized why I did what I did. I went to him. It was a potluck night. I went straight to him. I said, I wanted to talk to you. I told him to come outside, and I admitted to him that I was shooting up Dilaudid because of this girl. He said, block her. She's not allowed. And why did I do that? Because the next time he saw her, he knew that I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. As long as I had accountability, I could be strong. That's why I told him that. and she never came around again. The times I did ask Pat for money, I'll tell you those times. The times I did ask for money, I wanted to get my GED, and I asked him for a cheap little $200 laptop. I thought that I would get a cheap $200 laptop. I wanted to get my GED. Ultimately, he bought me a $1,200 iPad. It's not what I asked for, but I appreciated it. I tried to do the GED, but I couldn't do it. Ultimately, I did download the stuff. He even gave me a $100 gift card to go with it to get a keyboard type thing. That's what he did. Because why did he do it? Because what I was asking for was for the right reasons. I asked for a computer for the right reasons. I didn't just want it to play with. I wanted to get my GED with it, and I did try to get my GED with it, but I didn't succeed in that. I even had Heather Campbell help me go to these classes, and he even picked me up from a class one time. So, I mean, I did attempt to do it. He picked from, it was like by the Lowe's or whatever. He picked me up one time. I needed somebody to pick me up from a GED class. So I did attempt it. Ultimately, I didn't succeed, and my daughter ended up with that iPad. There was another time that a girl had a cell phone. She was a work camper, and I had a phone, an iPhone. Maybe it was the iPhone at the time, but I had a battery pack with it. It was a heavy phone, and her phone was brand new, and she had it open, like it had a case that was open, and somehow my phone slipped out of my hand, hit her phone, dropped it, and it broke her phone. So I took her phone to him because I know he has like connections with phone people or whatever to fix the phone, and I offered to pay it back. And we never discussed. I asked him one time, how much did it cost? He gave me a number, and that was the end of that conversation. We never spoke about it again. But I paid it back. I knew how much I owed him, and every week I'd put $10, $20 in his mailbox in a cash envelope. I put a piece of cash in an envelope, and over time, I know what it cost. I kept track of it, and I paid it off. He never mentioned that he got the money. I know he got it because it was in his mailbox, but I paid it off. I made him a promise I would pay it off, and I did it. The time that I asked him recently for money was because I was in a panic, in jail for something I didn't do, because of my mom saying that I had I never really wanted to tell this portion of the story. It's a domestic violence injunction case, but my mom, I didn't do it. I never put my hands on my mom. I'm just going to tell you that, okay? I never put my hands on my mom. So she put a restraining order on me. That's how I'm going to say it, because this is the truth. Just how do I say it? Because there's stuff that I'm not going to say. She put a restraining order on me. And so the restraining order is an injunction. You can't be in contact with her. So I never left the house, is basically what happened. I did not leave. So the next time she got mad at me, she called and said that I had violated the injunction. And that's what I was in jail for that reason. There's other things I'm just not going to mention. I'm not going to do it. That's what happened. So I'm in a panic because my ministry is so important. I'm losing my vehicle. I need to make bond. I want to get out of jail. I had like $100 bond. I want out of jail. I want out of jail so bad because I want to get back to this. So I wrote to him and asked him for the money and the letters. I wrote a lot of letters, probably some stuff that he thinks I'm crazy, because my ministry, if you don't understand what I'm trying to do, you think I'm crazy. You think I'm still delusional. I'm going to say I still hear a voice. You're still schizophrenic. No, I'm not. So it's difficult. It's been very difficult for me. But I offered to pay that back too. I wanted my car too. Now, could you please help me get my car out? So he had made the payment, because I said I would pay it back, I would have paid it back. Now, there is a lot of money he spent on me. He spent a lot of money. Him and the congregation, the family, church family, he spent a lot of money on me. And those are some things that I never asked for. I never asked for them to put braces on my daughter. I never asked for that. They did that willingly, voluntarily. I never asked for it, never even thought about it. He came to me, said, take her to schedule the appointment. We've already told them that we'll pay it. They already have our information. They'll bill us. And there's a lot of things that they did. A Lots. 3 campers. A lot. This man walked me down the aisle. He has 5 children, 4 daughters. I asked all 4 of his daughters if it would be okay for him to walk me down the aisle before I ever asked him if he would do it. I wanted to make sure that it was okay with them. So they said that it was okay, and so that's what happened. So my husband and I, prior to getting married, we took marriage counseling. The man who married us, David Myers, him and his wife together, they did marriage counseling. They were members of our church. They were also work campers. The question was, what do you see would be the destruction of your marriage? And my answer was crack cocaine. Crack cocaine would destroy the marriage easily. So clearly I knew this before I ever got married. My husband was a crack addict in his early 20s. Now, my friend Megan was not the one with the, my best friend Megan, grew up with Megan. Okay? He was also a pothead, too. Him and Carol smoked pot together before she passed away. So his sobriety is not really that long, honestly. They were potheads, but he was a crackhead in his early 20s. My best friend Megan is a pothead. So that opened that door up for my husband to relapse. Megan with pot. Not for me, because I don't touch pot. Pot's not my problem. I don't even like it. I like the way it smells, to be honest with you. I mean, I've always liked the way it smells. I could sit in a room with people smoking pot all around me. Today, I could do that. I could sit around people smoking. I shouldn't be there. I know that, but I'm making a statement because this is the truth. I can sit around people smoking pot and not be tempted to smoke pot because I do not like the way it makes me feel, period. I won't smoke pot. So he relapsed with the weed in that area. So because he's smoking pot, this is opening those doors for the cocaine, for the crack, because he used to be a crackhead. Well, now he's getting high and Suzanne's not getting high. So his thought process is he will make me happy by letting me go smoke crack. And on my honeymoon, that's what he did. On my honeymoon in Panama City, he drove me around to try to find crack cocaine. That is the truth. Red flag. On my honeymoon, I'm already married the dude now. I'm already married to him now. So what did Satan do? He waited till that ring was there. He waited till that ring was there. A little time goes by, I relapse. Now we're both smoking crack. We get sober. I even called my pastor 3 o'clock in the morning, told him the truth. Again, smoking crack. This time I can't get past it. Why? Because I have another crackhead in the house. I have somebody else in the home. Accountability is not working for me right now. It's just making me look bad. Because I could have stayed clean, fine. Pat, I need help. But see, this time he can't help me because I have to rely on my husband. It's about the end of the story, okay? What I don't understand is this. This is where Pat was supposed to help me. There is a lot of things that I do not admit, that I do not understand. Sometimes I'll tell you, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing with this ministry. All I know is that there's some truth about the voices, schizophrenia. I know that God is speaking to me. He's encouraging me to keep on. I know AI is the beast. I know ultimately we're going to be extinct. I know some things. You're not going to convince me that that's not the truth. But there is a level that I do not understand. What am I talking about here? I am talking about how was supposed to leave that campground and end up on Olean's Lane. Now, how did I end up on Olean's Lane? I ended up on Olean's Lane because I left the campground and got hooked on drugs again. And ultimately, I got clean again, but that is what led me there. That's what led me there. Had I not messed up and got high or even married my husband in that campground, I would still be there. I'd still be there today, probably. I wouldn't have ended up on Olean's Lane. Now, why is Olean's Lane so important? Because I had a vision, a dream prior to going to Camp Golf that I would find God when I went looking for women and children. So I was supposed to be on Olean's Lane. I'm supposed to be there. That means that I was supposed to marry my husband. I'm supposed to be there. Those two things I know for sure. I know I had a dream at X, and I had dream come true at X. See what I'm saying? In between, the things that happened for a reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ended up here. That much I know. Where is that in the Bible? How does that work in the Bible? That's what I was supposed to get help with. That is why I was there at the campground, period. Okay, the campground is here. That's why I was there. I know this much so that I can learn something about the Bible in order to sustain me here. But this last one, I don't understand. I don't understand. But I know one thing, that this mark right here on my timeline told me I would be here. That much I know. The next portion, I'm going to put the videos and pictures. I'm going to listen to this again and take a note of the pictures I want to show you. And then the next one will be Olean's Lane. And maybe that'll be the last one if I don't have to break it down twice. Break it into two. Thank you. After watching that video, I realized there are things that I didn't say. Not for the purpose of kind of like the story about where I said I'm not going to say certain things about my mom and what caused her to want to put the restraining order on me. If you're a follower, you've heard me say my mom has been a viper in my life. There's just some things I'm not going to say. I'm not even going to tell you why those things are. It's not personal for me. It's not because of me. It's the reasons why I'm not saying it is for other people. Reasons for other people. That's the best that I can do. Okay. It's not my story. It's the best I can say. Okay, but what I say, I neglected to say, not intentional, but it's just a lot of stuff, okay? But what I didn't mention was the time I stole $20 out of the collection plate of church. I didn't mention how I went to jail for dealing in stolen property for a Bluetooth speaker. There's just a lot of things that I didn't say. I didn't mention the quarters, the laundry quarters that my husband took, and which he just saying that we used it to smoke crack. Okay, there's just a lot of things that I didn't mention. I feel that that's important to say. I didn't mention them for the purpose of like trying to hide them. It's a lot to say. Ultimately, the core of the story has been told. The core of the story has been told, and I think that that's what's important. The portion of this, anyways, is what is the purpose of Camp Golf was to learn the word, the Bible, not the word of God speaks to me audibly, but to learn the written word, to learn scripture. That's why I was there. That's all I wanted to add in. Thank you.